mics are muted.
Mics are unmuted.
That is going to be March 15th to the 18th, you said? Is that
18th
18th to the 21st? Okay.
18th to the 20th.
Okay, it's only a 3-day, guys. All right, 3 days. We got a lot going on here, man. I got a lot.
You go to academy.softwarewide.io. You'll see all the dates for all the
right.
academies we got coming up.
That's right.
Or you can just, hashtag Academy in the chat.
You can do that
There
as
you
well.
go. Hashtag Academy in the chat.
Whoa, who got smart with that?
Don't worry about it. We got it all taken
got
care
smart
of.
with
Speaking
that?
of
Academy
hashtagging in the chat, go ahead and hashtag WPT Global if you want some information on the meetup game. This is going to be taking place on January 31st at Playground Casino in Montreal. It's going to be myself, Schwan Liu, John Van Fleet, aka Ape Styles. We're all going to be in the building. Going to be playing a little bit of 1-3. There's also a $2,200 high roller that I'll be playing in that day, followed by the 1100 main event the next day. Be sure to hit hashtag WPT Global for more information on that, or you can check the pinned comment in the chat or the description below. All of those links will take you to the same place, which will give you a lot more details on what's going on at Playground Casino. I hope to see you guys all there. And then finally, we have a new course out on the site right now. Just hot off the presses.
I mean, literally 5 minutes ago.
This series is going to be a full review of the recent WPT 10K World Championship event that just happened at the Wynn here in Vegas. We're just going to dive right in and start off with six-handed play because a lot of the really interesting hands took place in that portion of the event. And then we're going to have some really fascinating hands in three-handed and heads-up play. So we have 6 elite level players and obviously a really good opportunity to see what these players do in a high pressure, very big money situation.
All right, that is Matt Hunt's new course, breaking down the World Championship. This is going to be an analysis of the final table of the WPT Championship that just took place at the Wynn. You can find all 5 episodes of that, I believe.
There are 5 of them.
All right, Lamanna's on top of it. You can find that at solveforwhy.io. All you need is the all-in access pass, so go ahead and sign up for a membership. Obviously, you get a discount if you sign up for the yearly. Hunt puts out great content. This is going to be very ICM driven. So for any of you tournament players here that are looking to get better at final table spots, Landon, not throwing any shade, but if you want to take a little peek at it.
There were some fun hands at that final table, so it should be pretty cool to see Hunt break that down.
Yeah, I think the most interesting one, obviously, is the
Ace 10, King 10.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
Ace 10, King 10.
What was the Ace 10, King 10?
Chewy had Ace 10 and Sepiol had King 10 hearts.
Sepiol blasted it.
Oh, yeah, the rocket off.
Yeah.
The Rocket Man.
Love to win.
Rocket Man.
I wasn't even thinking about that one, but yeah, that one's going to be super interesting. I was thinking of the blind versus blind. Actually, you're probably right. That one's probably more interesting, and the blind versus blind is probably more standard.
Yeah.
Right.
Queen Jack off?
No. The Jacks versus Ace King.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
Yeah. It is. The Mormon Queen Jack off is interesting too. Yeah, a lot of hands.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of fun hands there.
A lot of fun hands to check out. So be sure to head to softwarewide.io and check all that stuff out. All right. We got the heavy lifting out of the way. I don't know why I'm stuck on that shot. Man, a lot going on today.
Woo! So your finger's a little bit better.
I'm going to take a breath for a second. Oh, God.
You okay over there?
There's a lot, man. I'm just fucking... How's Guapa do this shit?
No, you're like this. You're fiddling your fingers. By the way, I haven't played in the fiddle in a while.
Yeah.
Well, we got rid of the fiddle.
Bust out the fiddle.
No, we need the fiddle back.
No, the fiddle's gone.
No, JJ wants the fiddle, man.
All right, JJ can get the fiddle whenever he gets us another 500 subscribers or members rather. So the way it works, I don't know if you guys are aware, but the more members we have, the more emotes we're able to unlock, right?
Oh, I see.
And I'm sorry, but we had to add the Reject Me Daddy emote.
You got rid of the fiddle for Reject Me Daddy?
Actually, no, we got rid of the Pirate P.
What?
For Reject Me Daddy. I'm sorry, Brian. It had to happen.
That was actually.
Baseball season.
I understand.
We're around the corner.
I understand, but I wasn't getting rid of the Terrible Towel. That lives on forever.
I think we should swap the Terrible Towel and the P for whatever season it is.
I'm glad you think that. I'll be waving my towel in the spring, bro.
I'm pretty sure that I can get in there and finagle something.
He's going to talk to the manager.
The fiddle was lost for either the Vulture emote.
Vulture's good.
Vulture's really good. Or What was the other recent new emote that we put in there?
Who are you talking?
The in the muck.
Who are you talking about?
In the muck
for,
has to be in there.
who are you talking about for the vulture?
Yeah.
I mean, that was
Wow.
how was that bored? I didn't want to know.
How are people gonna spell poop without the P's in there now that
Now you get it,
Yeah.
Brian. Now you understand why the P has been removed. And only the oop remains.
Just ooh.
out of
Just
position?
ooh, yeah. God damn it. We have a lot to talk about today. We have updates on the ACR bot situation via Jay Nandez. We have updates on the Brigada final table and a bit of a twist with one Anthony Zeno. I'm in the fucking muck today.
You
if
are.
that's not clear by now. And we have a thread that we're going to dig through from Jay Little where I know this is shocking.
Bold take.
I don't exactly agree with his stance here. So maybe you guys can bring me around to it a little bit.
I can't wait for the time that you
yeah.
actually do agree with the take.
I'll be a little bit softer on this one because I think maybe in some fantasy land I can agree with the underlying sentiment.
Listen, the tortoise read it and took all about 3 seconds to find the
the
loss of
fallacy
the
here.
loss of logic in this.
I will say it's tough on Twitter when you're trying to get some sort of blanketed point across that can make sense in a very small amount of words.
Okay.
Because like we had a back and forth and we kind of figured out what he was trying to get at.
Yeah, but I could have just reframed it as saying hands that are breaking even in theory might possibly be losing in practice.
Guys, we're going to be talking about this later, later on in the show. Not at the moment.
Let's bury the lead, huh?
Yeah.
Let's relax here.
All right, let's get it kicking off with
Get it poppin'?
a little,
Yeah, let's get it popping. This is like, come
This
on.
is your thing.
You can't miss that.
You missed it.
Yeah, how do you miss that?
I don't want to do it, man. Let's start with an update on ACR's bot situation via Jay Nandez. So he put out a tweet today. This is roughly 24 hours after we reported this yesterday, or maybe it was 2 days ago. Sorry. He said ACR suspended the accounts pending a full investigation. This is the way ACR thumbs up. Will players see any refunds? So we are making some headway, it seems.
Good.
Yeah, for better or for worse, like the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? So at the end of the day, we may not be doing online long-term service in painting them as the dystopian nightmare that I believe it to be. But in the near term, for those who do continue to play on it, I do think that like talking about these issues day in and day out and applying some upward pressure to the sites to actually make good is kind of working itself out, right? Obviously, like the guys in the community deserve all the credit in the world. Like the Matt Marinellis, the Patrick Howards, the Jay Nandez's, the ones that are collecting all this data, coming to the conclusion that these can't be humans, presenting it to the sites, and then getting some sort of response from the site. We're still waiting to hear from GG with regard to the most recent, I don't want to, allegation, I guess is the right word. The one that came out 2 days ago that we were talking about with Matt that looked like it was some sort of bot farm attempting, from my perspective, I think it was an attempt to bonus war.
Bonus bots.
Bonus bots, yeah. And I do
Nice.
think that Jason Kuhn may have made a statement about this in a thread. So I don't think it was like very widely viewed, but let me
He doesn't
pull
use
that
Twitter
up.
much.
He does not use Twitter.
He knows to stay out.
Okay, yeah. So it was with he was in a thread with Todd, and he basically said that this situation was 100% not super using, and this case has already been resolved. There are a lot of cases of promotion abusers slow chip dumping at micros that makes one person have an astronomical win rate until they are all caught. And then he said, I guess Todd's follow-up is important. He said, will we be able to find more out about Money Taker? There were several major questions left unanswered. Jason said, I hope all the info can surface. As for now, there are legal constraints. What I can confidently say is it's extremely unlikely a similar event ever occurred. I don't know enough to say with 100% certainty. The problem was patched and the vulnerability no longer exists.
That does feel like it should be on like a separate tweet.
Yeah. I mean, yes, obviously. Like it'd be nice to see this statement just
Like a
made
patch
public.
note.
Yeah, right.
Or just from the Integrity Council.
Right. That's
Well, he's
true
on
too.
it.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, but yeah,
They need a Twitter account.
Yeah, they do.
Conrad's point is that like they're quiet, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be nice. It'd be nice to see this stuff publicly where we can kind of report on it with a lot more confidence rather than just speculating. Like when Matt and I were going back and forth, we didn't have these details, right? So we're just looking at a graph, and he's basically saying, "Well, that looks like a bot," and I'm basically saying like, and it's at micros, so maybe it makes sense that they're just trying to bonus whore here, kind of thing. And that was also just like, you know, inside information that was passed my way. So maybe that's. It seems as though that's likely what was happening.
Bonus hoarding is pretty sick.
Yeah, I mean,
Until you're caught.
Well, what's the penalty?
No more bonus for you.
Right.
Take your bonus away.
To be fair, if this has been going on for a while, they've been well off. They played for at least 5 years now, if not more.
What do you mean it's been going on for a while?
If it has.
Which part?
The like bonus whore and bot.
Wait, what? Where are you coming? Where's this timeline coming from in your head? I guess.
I don't know how long the bot's been like operating for. Like this, obviously, it's gonna be multiple of them because
Well,
they're bonus whoring. But
yeah, but I mean, like the accounts themselves, we know were not very old.
yeah, no, of course.
They barely played any hands.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I'm just saying, like, this is obviously a rinse and rewash.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
repeat,
yeah.
like, whatever. However the fuck you say that.
Right, but like it's one of those things where it's like we only care because it's an anomaly in the data. It's not really harming the ecosystem that much. It's only harming GG.
No, yeah, I understand that. I'm just, like, curious how long is the said person that's running this bot been doing it for?
Yeah.
Taking away.
Yeah, and maybe I'm wrong in saying that it's not
Harmful.
Yeah, that it's not harmful to the environment as a whole. Maybe it could be. It just doesn't seem like they're doing anything to suck EV out of the player pool. They're just, you know, running a bunch of hands, assumingly against each other, and clearing bonuses. But I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
This is a fair question. Geek says, serious question. Have you guys all heard from Guapo? No, we have not, Tyler, and we're all very, very concerned.
True. He said he was going to be back on the 18th.
Yeah, I was of the impression that I was out of this chair weeks ago. And now here I am with a fucked up finger.
Mm-hmm.
You got injured on the job.
I got
Injured on the
injured
job.
on the
Workers' comp
job.
for that?
He is
I'm
the
gonna
owner
pay
for
myself.
workers' comp.
I have half a cast, you know, I've only a quarter of a finger left. Like, where are you, Guapo? Come back to us.
We need you.
I can't survive under these constraints any longer.
He comes back next week.
I hope so.
That's what he claims.
That is,
Insider info is he claims next week.
yeah, that's
We,
the
we don't know.
can't happen soon enough.
We really don't know. He's probably having too much fun over there, honestly. And his eBay store is probably popping right now.
Well, I wonder if he just like set up shipping from
From
like just talked to Henry and was like, all right, I'm going to create a shipping department out of your hotel. I'm going to need somebody to oversee it, but here we go.
Yeah.
But honestly, that would have been sharp. Guapo, talk to me, baby. We got this all set up. All right. In lighter and brighter news, followed by very quick and dark news, we are at the final table of the Brigada, or I guess they are at the final table of the Brigada.
We are not.
Do we know what's up top here?
636,000 or something like
36,000 for a 5K.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking nice.
Yeah.
The field is led by John Panucci, who I'm not familiar with, but I guess he made a deep run in this event last year. This is our main event chip leader right now.
Yep, he got 20th in this last year.
All right, 20th. He's followed by Alex Queen, local legend.
Yeah.
Been a Brigada reg for as long as I can remember. Carlos Chata. Oh, I guess I can scroll through and give you guys pictures. Big and regular on the scene for quite some time. Has about 2 million in earnings, 2.4. One Anthony Zeno. He will be a topic of discussion as we go through this a bit more. Fifth in chips is Brian Yoon, legend of himself. And then newcomer that Landon's very familiar with, Casey Hatmaker.
I've been playing for a while, I think, but yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. He also
seems new to the scene to me.
He final tabled the Almighty stack earlier in the series.
Did he
Okay.
make that hat he's wearing?
Yeah. Not that
I
joke.
can't help myself.
We really wish you could.
I don't.
can't.
Me and Landon
It's
don't,
just-
honestly.
I just can't do it.
Hat maker or hat wearer?
Right. Okay. So it looks like today's going to kick off at 1 p.m. East, so it's already underway. They'll be playing down to a winner, 600,000 up top, and one man that probably is looking to make a score here is one Anthony Zeno.
Well, I think they're all looking to make score.
Yeah, but he might need it a little bit more than most, you know.
Jesus.
Look, we got to have a little bit of fun with this. I mean, maybe we don't. It's
Nah, we do.
It's maybe a little bit more serious than I'm leading
It is,
on,
but you know.
So
The memes gotta fly.
yeah, the memes gotta fucking fly, bro. I'm not here to pass on any memes. Where did I put this asset? Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay. So I
That was pretty good.
okay. So this happened back in December, I guess. And we had heard about it. I think everybody had heard about it to some degree, like through the grapevine. But there were like conflicting reports as to what actually happened. But supposedly now it's becoming a lot more public knowledge that Zeno was caught like taking a book bag in the win that had 20K in it, which, you know, eventually like he was charged for theft. But I guess he's not actually getting charged for the full 20,000, maybe because it's not verifiable or whatever the case may be. But anyway, this supposedly did happen. And he's being investigated moving forward or whatever. Allegedly, supposedly, who cares? So the reason why I think this is worth mentioning is not to like drag Zeno. I think he's, you know, a great guy. I love Zeno to death. He's super nice. And I think everybody has that opinion of him. But this is one of those things where it's like, you know, it's a cautionary tale of beware of who you're doing business with in situations where, you know, they have these outstanding situations that are less than above bar. Hopefully, he is just going to make everything right, and this will all go away, and we won't have to hear any more about it. But also, like, you know, you don't want to be put into a situation where this stuff gets swept under the rug because a guy had a score and, like, you know, erased a past mistake or whatever. It's like we should still probably be pretty aware of like what's going on in the sphere of where we're gambling. But most importantly, don't fucking leave your book bags laying around. If you have money in them, especially, like,
Victim blaming now?
well, a little bit, yeah. You know, Barber was on the show, and he was talking about how the cheapest mistake he ever made was leaving his book bag at a table at a Venetian where he had like either an iMac or like a Surface Pro or something like that. Like, not too expensive, but like expensive enough that you wouldn't want to have it stolen. Somebody on break took his book bag, took the computer out of it or the tablet, whatever, and he went to security to, you know, try to find out who the perp was and get persecuted. And he said the thing he'll never forget is when he asked them to check the tape, they said to him, "Those cameras are there for our benefit, not for yours."
Yeah, I remember this.
Jeez.
So in essence, like, they're there to protect the casino,
correct,
not the clientele,
right?
And this extrapolates out, right?
That is
like,
true. Yeah.
when it comes to having big chips on the table, you know, even carrying chips in your pocket, whatever the case may be, you are not insured. The casino is not going to be responsible if somebody walks by and plucks a 5K off your stack.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's funny you say this because in Florida, legend of the game Nidus dropped a 10K brick from his pants, and this lady like picked it up and pretended it was her money.
Strong. And
then Nidus is like, "Okay, like, I would like to have can I have my money back, please?" And she's like, "No, this is mine. You're gonna have to sue me for it." So
wow.
He's like, "You're gonna have to press charges." And he's like, "Okay, I will." And then he talks to the security guy and says, "Hey, this lady just took my money."
Right.
He goes, "Okay, do you want to press charges?" And Nidus is like, "I really don't want to if she gives you my money back." And she's like, "You're gonna have to press charges." And she stood on business. And he's like,
adage, right? Possession is 9/10 of the law. It's true.
And he goes, "Okay, like, I'm willing to press charges." They go to the cameras that literally saw her like caught in 4K. She gave him back the money, and then she got charged with a third-degree felony.
Those security cameras.
She actually got charged?
Yeah. He just took it and was like, "Oh, this is mine." He's like, "No."
So wait, did he get the money back?
Yeah.
He got it back and she got charged.
That's incredible.
This was on the bubble
Yeah.
of the 10K in Florida, like Stone Bubble. They paused the tournament because Nidus had to deal with the situation.
This
Yeah.
is the most Florida thing I've ever heard in my life.
If $10,000 falls out of your pocket and someone picks it up and says, "No, I keep it now," like
That's what happened.
right? And like the least the casino can do for you is be like, "Yeah, no, look, like we have it on camera. Like she stole this money."
They did that.
Right.
Okay, that's good. Good to know that they did that.
Yeah, that
'Cause
was-
that's literally the least they could do.
I just don't understand that. Like, she couldn't just stop at, like, you know, the point right where she was about to go to jail. Like, she just
She
had
tried
to...
bluffing, and Nidus ain't folding.
Well, it's kind of a free roll for him too, right? Like just say something.
Yeah, I mean, it was
Yeah.
nuts.
Like, was she like? She was so convinced that the casino wouldn't.
She just wanted to feel
like,
something, man.
Yeah, I don't
What
get
the
it.
fuck?
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Speaking of feeling something, you guys think I was bullshitting, but this is just straight facts, homie. This is what happened to me yesterday, a la the whatchamacallit,
Microphone?
the microphone biting me.
Oh, you're showing an asset of your finger?
Yeah.
Okay, for the
Maybe.
squeamish, just
Yeah. Yeah. Here's a quick warning for you guys. Don't look directly at it.
Ooh, that's a nice chunk taken out.
It got me good.
Yeah,
It got me good.
that is a nice
the microphone
chunk
got
taken out.
hungry.
It jumped up and bit me.
It really did.
So to have an idea of what happened, it's this joint right here. Right here.
Watch
so,
out, you're
so
scaring
Mike
me.
was
Yeah, like,
that, and I have
don't
my
get it-
finger right there, and I just boop,
Oh yeah.
and I immediately just grab my finger like this, and I go, that took a chunk out.
Yeah, you did.
That definitely took a chunk out. We're not okay. Man,
It's like one of those things where you're afraid to like look and see what the actual damage is.
I didn't want to take my finger away.
Yeah.
I think the first thing you said was, "Where the fuck is Guapo?"
Yeah.
And then you went
It
on to
never
that.
happened if
Yeah,
Guapo
that-
was here.
that's
If
actually
Guapo was just
probably
fucking
accurate.
here, you know? Jesus.
That's
Guapo's
true.
become one with
So
the mic.
you patched it up, put a little Neosporin on.
It's right as rain. You know,
Yeah.
you guys probably can't really see it. You know, I have no ability to zoom, but if you want to head to my Instagram, I'm a Wolverine of some sort. I mean, this thing healed
It's
overnight.
healed right
Oh,
up, huh?
bone broth.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, bone
is the-
broth.
it's gotta
It's
be the
always
bone
bone
broth.
broth.
It's gotta be
Always
the
the bone broth.
Yeah, you nailed it, Conrad. I
All that
appreciate
whey
it.
protein.
Well, the milk protein is especially good. You know what I'm talking about. out there. Big shout out.
JJ said it's karma for the fiddle BS.
Fuck you.
That's right. You take away the fiddle. You take
Listen
away
here,
the key.
JJ. Listen here. My man over here doesn't get to call a flute a string instrument. Okay? He doesn't get to call a flute a string instrument for the better part of a year, get an emote out of it, then stop using the emote and have me get blamed for replacing it. This is not going to be the way this works. All right? I appreciate you for the 10-month membership, JJ.
Your finger was the first warning for the fiddle.
Yep.
God damn it.
You know?
Can't live like this. I can't live like this.
Dude,
All right. While I'm in the muck, I suppose we should just get to in the muck. All right. I got a
You're
good one
in
today.
the muck.
I'm in the muck, and it's a doozy because I have to tell you, this sim itself probably took me a half hour
It really did.
to get off.
That's what she said.
It's okay. Relax, Grandpa. All right.
I love Grandpa Lamanna.
All right. So this is your typical spot where we're gonna play an SPR of about 1,500 or so. You know, just your usual 120K effective 100 game limped pot.
Normal.
Run of the mill limp check.
Run of the mill 1,500.
How often does it fold to the blinds?
Not very.
Can't be very.
As much as you think.
Yeah.
Especially we were playing 5-handed.
Oh, okay.
So it definitely folds to the blinds more. Although that probably shouldn't matter. It should fold the exact same amount. Anyway, no, that's not true. It folds
true.
more.
Yeah.
Baltimore, 9 people, more people have hands to raise.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
He's sleepy.
So we got 100. I limped the 6-9 suited. Dinner for 2. Big lick, if you will.
Jesus. I'm the grandpa.
How can he be mad at you? We got to do these things.
What?
Like, go ahead. Go
Okay.
on with the hand.
All right.
You
All
may
right.
proceed.
Proceed. We get the King Jack 7 2-spade board. Now, this is where it gets a little bit convoluted. Can't really run for 1500 SPR. But
I don't have this.
no, the best we could do is 125 SPR, so 1/10 the size basically.
Right.
And generally we're just gonna range bet here.
Mm-hmm.
Now the issue is that like the deeper we get, the more I probably complicate my strategy early. And what I mean by that is the more willing I am to have like multiple options available to me on the flop instead of simplifying to like a range bet. So I'll probably play like bet check here, and I'll probably play. The other thing is there's only $300 in the pot, so I'm pretty restricted.
You're saying the small blind has a range check here?
No, bet.
Oh,
A range bet.
a range bet here?
Yes.
You just
For sure.
bet everything?
Yeah,
Or
you
just
didn't
check.
you didn't get ISO'd by a range that's supposed to
Right.
raise 50%.
Yeah, and you can still have hands that he doesn't because
I
you're
have aces. I
Right,
have kings.
yeah,
I have ace king. I have
Gotcha,
king jack.
gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, I probably am supposed to play range bet here, but
You didn't.
I did not.
Is it for one big blind?
So that's the other thing is that there's only $300 in the pot, so I can only bet third pot, 2/3 pot, or larger.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I can't bet like
Can't bet quarters.
I can't bet 40.
10. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't bet 10. I can't
Right.
bet 25.
You should try to throw out 2 like green chips and see what happens.
You'll get booted. I'll be the one to actually fucking boot you. That's why we play 100 instead of 50-100, so the
Right.
green chips don't play.
Right.
So yeah, like my strategy is actually kind of confined to the betting chips that I have available to me. But also just like I think I want to play a little bit more of a complex strategy because I think Oaken's range is capped in a very specific way. Like he's supposed to check back some suited aces. I just don't think he ever does. He's supposed to check back like some suited connectors and one gappers, and just generally speaking, I don't really think that happens. Like I think
Probably doesn't happen in your game at all.
correct. I think most people in this spot, blind versus blind, look at a hand and think to themselves, would I open this hand in general?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is yes, they pure open it, right?
Mhm.
So it's like you look at king queen, you never think to yourself like, oh, I need a little bit of king queen here in my check back range. Or I'm gonna knuckle. No, they just never fucking have king queen, right?
Meh.
So because of that, because it's like so much more heavily concentrated to small cards, I think I would just like play a strategy that allowed me to, bet third pot with some portions of my range where I'm just stabbing, maybe have backdoors, whatever. And then maybe play like check raise with other portions of my range. So instead of having like a pure range bet for third, I would probably mix between betting and checking is what that explanation was ultimately coming to.
Okay.
So I think this is a good one to check. Go on.
I just wanted to make sure for our audio listeners what's going on here. So you have
Right. So I have 9-6 of spades, 100 folds to me in the small blind, check. Flop comes king of spades, jack of spades, 7 of clubs. So we flop the 9 high flush draw. I choose to check this one. Could go either way, I think. And Oaken stabs for third pot. Brian forgot the ante. Oh, I guess he can't include the ante. So there's actually 300 in the pot. So he bets 100 into 300. And I then choose to check raise. Now, because of the depth, I felt like, because of the depth and the massive amount of nut advantage I have, I felt like when I choose to check raise, I should be polarizing. But I actually think in hindsight, maybe that's an error. Because I have so much nut advantage, like maybe just any check raising at all applies a lot of pressure to range. So, I could be in the muck here simply for my sizing. My mind was like, oh, if you have a hand like King Jack, you want to start to pump money in the middle.
you 6x, so you made
Pot.
600.
I
Yeah,
mean-
which seems like a big bet, but it's just pot.
It's just pot.
For what it's worth, if you had a hand like King Jack, you would just 3x pre, right?
No.
No, you just limp?
No. In these spots, you limp a lot.
Okay.
Because you're just supposed to get ISO'd a lot.
It's 100, right? Or is it 50, 100?
100.
It's 100, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to check a lot,
Correct.
and then he's going to
Yeah.
reopen a lot.
Correct. Yeah. So, allegedly.
Supposedly.
But yeah, like I would raise
Potentially.
King Jack. I would raise King Jack off here some of the time pre, but like I would look to limp raise most of the suited variety, whatever. It doesn't really matter. So I think my sizing is maybe a mistake. But the idea was like get the money now kind of thing with good hands and build a pot.
It's kind of hardish to polarize if you can't get stacks.
Right. Well, which is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like that made me think that like, okay, I can be a lot more linear for the large size because stacks aren't really threatened.
Yeah.
Right. Small size just doesn't accomplish anything.
It doesn't. It just folds out trash, but you're not really trying to get one pairs to fold anyways.
Precisely. Yeah.
You're just trying to get the stabs to fold.
Yeah. So
4 or 5 of hearts or something.
Well, I'm also just like trying to set up strategy for endgame.
Yeah.
Right. Turns and rivers. So he continues through a call. And now we get a really fun card.
A good card. 5
of clubs gives us a gut shot, 9 high flush draw, and will improve a lot of his bet calling range because he'll have backdoors. So my thinking here was that this is a kind of card that we get to polarize on. The majority of our strategy is always going to be constructed around our highest EV hands, our highest equity hands, and largely speaking, that's going to be sets, 2-pair, those types of holdings, right? Mm-hmm. So thinking to myself, like, what do sevens want to do here when he never has jacks or kings? Right. What does King Jack want to do here when he probably never has sevens either, right? So it's a situation where he's pretty close to being devoid of sets plus.
Your nut advantage is huge.
It's massive.
Huge.
Massive. So I'm like, we want to pump money in the pot. Mm-hmm. If ever there's a time to 3x pot, this has to be it.
Let's do it.
Let's fucking go. This is rare, baby.
Mm-hmm.
This is rare. We just get to find the natural 3x pot in game. Let's go. We find it. We find the 3x pot.
4,500?
That's right.
All right.
He calls.
He snapped.
Yeah. Doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
But I had hope.
Okay, you have equity.
Yeah, I guess you just have to be careful with how much you bet with frequency on the turn.
Explain.
Like you can't just bet over pairs here. Or like you can't have aces or ace king and go 2x.
Aces specifically with the ace of spades. I think we can do this because, well, specifically like we like doing it probably like ace of spades, ace of clubs, because I don't think he's checking back much suited ace X.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's pretty nice to just bomb with because he's going to be a little bit more concentrated to smaller flush draws, which maybe fold, maybe don't. I don't know. Like that's the thing. I think he's making errors versus 3x pot. I just don't know in which way. I mean, I found out real fucking quick in which way.
Yeah, it's tough because when people are aware that when you can make a 5-card hand, like a clean 5-card hand, you probably should not fold, as both front door and back door flush draws aren't going to fold the 3x pot.
Right.
Because you can just make a 5-card hand and win. But then when you have one pair-ish type of hands facing 3x pot, it's a lot easier for that hand to become a lot worse when a flush draw does come in.
You want to know the irony about live poker?
The opposite.
They play the opposite.
Yeah.
They play the dead opposite because they're afraid to draw to a 5-card hand that's dominated.
Right.
So when they have the 10 high flush draw, they're afraid that it's the ace high flush draw that's doing this. So they muck.
Well, especially when you're 1,000 big blinds deep.
Correct. And when they have a king, they just think to themselves, well, I block 2-pair plus, and he has a lot of draws. Yep. So I'm going to call, and on river bricks, I'm going to decide.
Well, the issue is the river doesn't brick very often.
Oh, I know the fucking issue, Landon. Trust me, I was counting. I was trying to be the issue, okay?
You are the danger?
Yeah. Oh, man. Let a fucking clean 8 of hearts roll off one goddamn time.
You'd go pretty big. You go
Where
pretty
is
big.
I love yelling for snowman.
You probably I don't think you jam, though. But you
I can't jam.
You have to bet what you bet sets.
We were 1,500 SPR on the flop. I'll just bet 300 again. 3x. We would find the rare 3x spot.
Pretty nice.
30K?
Instead, yeah.
That would have been about 30K.
Yeah, about 30,000.
Yeah. So he calls your 4,500 and a nice, what we got here today?
The old King of Hearts rolls off.
King of Hearts. That's not going to improve your hand. Well, you improved to a pair now.
That's a brick.
You do have a pair now.
Yeah, you do have a pair of kings now because it's on the board.
Felt like a brick. I really wish the river were a jack.
Yeah.
Because he's supposed to fold all jack X that is not clubs on the turn.
Or 2-pair.
Right. Or like jack 7, I guess. Would
Jack
be
7,
playing
jack
trap.
5 suited.
Right.
Jack 5 off.
But I don't know if he is. Here's the thing: he's supposed to fold a lot of King X also.
Yeah.
But I'm more confident that he's making errors with King X than I would be with Jack. Like I think he'll look at like Jack 10 offsuit and just muck it
On the
enough of
turn?
the time. Yeah.
So you're sitting here with 9 high, 4 paired top pair,
Yeah.
and
I
you're like,
mean, what am I gonna do? I hedge.
Check.
yeah.
I hedge. I can't check down 9 high. I mean, I should check down 9 high, but I think bro's making mistakes. I thought that he could be concentrated to a lot of clubs. I don't want to just like lose the pot versus
Like a 10 high flush draw.
yeah, like well, he's just gonna bluff, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
gonna check and he's just gonna bet like half fucking pot,
Yeah.
and then I'm really gonna want to go for it.
Yeah.
You can kind of block here then, right? Go quarter.
No,
Get the
because
clubs to fold.
I think he's good enough to raise and rep the king if I do that. But maybe you're right, honestly. Maybe you're right because my line's so strong to now go quarter. It just looks like I'm full.
King Jack,
Right.
King 7.
Yeah. Yeah. You might be right. Obviously, I think like
King Jack here, you wouldn't go pot, I imagine. You have too much.
After going 3x on the flop,
Yeah.
I mean on the turn.
yeah, well, because when the
I
king
mean, I
comes,
think
how do
I-
you get called?
well, I think I would go pot because I'm scaling down from what is more natural size, which is overbet.
But what calls you?
I don't know. I can't care. I just have to like trust I get called sometimes, right? Because it's like whatever does call me is willing to pay a lot.
Yeah.
Or it could also raise too
It's
versus block.
inelastic.
I don't think so.
I mean, someone has King 10 facing B25, they're going to raise.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, after that line, especially live, like people are just so happy to show down hands that feel cuspy.
Mm-hmm. People will
Like they don't want to raise and they get 3-bet.
That's the problem, right? They get this really small like block bet into them, and they have like a decently strong hand, and they're like, I want to go for value because you just bet so small.
It's why
like if I do that and you come over the top, now I'm like put more money and I have to fold.
Yeah,
and you see it all the time. They're just like whatever, and they just flick it in.
yeah, it's why blocking is so powerful, but it's
Yeah.
also why the raise doesn't come through because they recognize how powerful blocking is.
Then you should block.
But
No, not if they
No.
never raise. Now it becomes bad.
I'm saying you should block with cheap bluff, I imagine.
Yeah.
You block and then he folds clubs, and
Yeah, because
then,
now he's not going to raise you with the bluff because
Yeah.
if you go over the top on him, he's going to have to fold. And why
Well,
would
if
you
it's a bluff, he doesn't care. If it's a king, he cares.
Well, he thinks you always
Yeah.
have a king.
like if you block
Don't do this.
if you block bluff, then you're literally just targeting like the bottom portion of his range that beats you.
Right, which may just find the courage to bluff, may not. I mean, we're really deep into the meta at that point.
Yeah.
It's also okay to give up, though. You're allowed to give up 9 high front
Deep
door
into the
draw.
meta.
You probably don't give up backdoor draw.
No,
Deep
backdoor
into
is
the muck.
pure bet. You're
yeah,
right.
you want spades to fold.
Yeah,
You have spades.
I think. Yeah,
but a
it's
really
kind of interesting
really
because
shitty set of spades though.
it's interesting though
Yeah.
because like it kind of works itself out the same based off this depth. Like I don't think he's going to bet fold much in the way of backdoor draws, so he's going to have a high concentration to clubs also.
But he might not bet them as much as spades in the first place. They'll just check back and try to
I
realize.
don't think that's necessarily true.
I mean,
He's just like stabbing for third pot. I think he's probably just anything that has reasonable equity. He's probably just flicking it in.
seems like an issue.
Well, yeah, that's why I played the hand this way. I mean, I'm clearly like trying to take advantage of big errors that I think are occurring.
The issue- Man,
But also like the other side of it is having spades on the river, especially low spades, is kind of nice because you can target Jack X, which only Jack X of clubs continues,
which probably folds the turn a lot, though.
not Jack X clubs,
Sure, but that's not a very big portion of range.
which is only Jack X. Is my point. So he has like this subset of Jack X of clubs that always continues. He has this subset of like other naked clubs that probably continue most of the time. I don't know.
Spades and then King X.
Yeah, and then he has like other spades, and then we get fucked by King X. Right? So it's like
So
it really just comes down to how much King X he has, and what we'll find out is that like I'm gonna get absolutely lopped off here.
I just think my fear in this, like, when we try to construct what his range is, it's a lot of auto folds or weak value or just strong King X that has us
Yeah.
wrecked,
Yeah.
which kind of brings me back to the block being a reasonable strategy.
I think there's something very viable in what you're saying. The only hole that I could poke through it is that like I think he just like pain calls a jack always.
I think that's okay
Okay.
because we'll still have he'll call a jack always, but we're not targeting a jack.
Right.
We're targeting the draws that miss.
Right.
And
And I
then-
guess in my head, full pot would target a jack more So
It
now,
would.
right. So now I'm encompassing all the hands that we are targeting plus this other, X%.
Right. And it's probably close with Jack X of clubs on the end
Pure
facing
fold.
pot.
Pure
Just
fold.
all of them.
Pure fold unless it's like Jack 7, which is not clubs. That's why Jack 7 calls, because it's not clubs.
Right. What you did was you tried to target what you could try to potentially get a range fold.
Yes.
That wasn't King X.
Exactly.
But then the issue is when you do get called, it's King X.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's expensive when you get called, but like you don't expect to see a ton of King X.
Well, you're going to see more King X than Jack X.
Not when the
You can have
not when the king pairs.
I think you definitely see a decent amount of Jack X.
It could 3X potted turn.
Yeah, but if you just, think about what game we're playing. Like, yes,
It also just depends like how much Jack X suited he has versus like raising pre. Like Queen Jack suited probably raises pre,
yeah, that's true.
right? So like that might not exist at a super high frequency.
But what if he has like a hand like Jack 5 of clubs?
Exactly. Well, not 5 because the king,
or
but
yeah,
like
so
Jack 6 of clubs.
yeah,
Yeah,
something like along those lines.
Right.
Yeah, we're aware of the Jack X
No,
of
they're
clubs
in there.
combos.
Yeah.
We're also just aware that he is Jack X without a club that folds the turn.
Landon's right. Like I'm not trying to argue against his points at all. The main point that he made that I think is most accurate is I was trying to target a specific range that auto folds, right? And I was trying to get to the absolute top of that range. Whereas like what Landon's saying is if we block, we still target a range that auto folds. We just get fucked now by Jack X, which may not be happy, but is often going to call.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it is one of those things too where if we have block and he doesn't raise King X, that's kind of his problem because now you're sort of getting away with murder with a block size.
Right. Well, yeah, but like what value do you ever have?
King
that's
Jack.
No, but but we would make full pot if we full pot.
I'm saying if I was you and I had King Jack, I would block.
But you were saying that like it's his problem if he never raises the block.
Yes.
With a king.
Or a bluff.
It's our problem. Well, he can raise with a bluff and not a king. That dichotomy can absolutely exist because the bluff is worthless to him
Sure.
and only functions as a bluff. The king wins a lot.
So you have showdown value, you don't want to get
Right.
jammed on.
It's too much showdown value, right? So it's just like it's just gonna call.
It's so much showdown value that you should raise.
I don't think so. I actually don't think any king X will raise that's not full off of this line. Maybe though. I mean,
Facing
maybe like
a block, it's potential.
he doesn't have king queen because it raises pre, right? He doesn't really have. I mean, obviously the full houses are gonna raise, so like those exist. And then what's your next pip down? King 10.
It just depends on what his weakest king is. Yeah.
Right, like king 10, king 9, king 8. Like, what are these extracting value from? I have to bet call aces, right? Which maybe I do, but
well, you
like,
wouldn't bet aces on the river for pot.
That's what I'm saying for block.
Yeah, it'd be nice to block. You'd probably bet call aces versus block because he could have a bluff which is nothing.
Yeah, I probably would, but it's like, he's targeting exactly aces now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where I have so much king X
Yeah.
that would be blocking. So I would kind of be surprised if it raises block, but we can look.
Pick something, right?
So you bet full pot, which is 10,000.
He called with king 4 off,
He called with king 4 off.
which on the river is obviously correct. We'll figure out. I wish we had another animation for the wizard where it just goes like this. How'd we do, Wiz? I don't fucking know.
The wizard is all.
You boys are in the fucking streets. All right, let's get to the strategy of this actual mess. So we made a lot of assumptions here, and most of them I think are pretty reasonable. When we look at the hand, and I set it for me betting 2/3 or check, I wanted to do this so that I had a more balanced strategy because I think this is more indicative of like how I would play the spot. So big bet or check. We can see that I'm only betting about 33 or 36% of the time. But the issue is that I do carry a big nut advantage. So the response, oh no.
No.
I did so much locking. Can I just go back?
He dropped it, locked it, polka dotted it.
No. Don't do this to me. There it is. Oh, thank God.
It's back.
Thank God it's back. Okay. So thank you, Wizard. I appreciate you. So I think that this is like pretty close to how I would play in game. The problem is that when I check, I still have so much nut advantage that he's not really incentivized to bet at a very high frequency. So you can see he's only betting 20%, and that's with me locking like some auto bets, like giving him like auto bets with like some king X. Or I shouldn't even say auto bets, but like a mix of bets with hands that otherwise were pure checking. Like king 4 was like pure checking. I just gave him like 20%, et cetera, et cetera. So he's very, very incentivized to just see the turn. A, because of depth, and B, because of just being really capped. You can see that he doesn't possess any king jack. He doesn't possess any king queen. No aces kings. No ace king. None of these strong hands, right? No sevens. No a little bit of jack 7 and full. So basically the top of his range now becomes jack 7, and that's what he's crafting his strategy around. And though that's a really good hand, it doesn't retain nearly the same amount of equity as even like a hand like king 10 would in this situation. Maybe I'm a little bit off by that. Jack 7 might have a fair amount more equity than king 10, but like if he had king queen in range, they wouldn't be that far apart, right? So you can see he doesn't really bet that often, but we did lock him to some bets, specifically like a lot of his flush draws. Basically anything that has immediate equity, I kind of gave him some frequency of betting on, and he lands on a 20% bet for third pot. So we can see now my response is going to be to raise very infrequently, which I was really surprised by, because if we have such a big nut advantage, why don't we just want to like blast money in the pot? And I think what the solver's ultimately arriving at is like we have too big of a nut advantage. Basically, you missed a range bet, and now you're trapping, so follow through on the trap and let him hang himself on the turn kind of thing.
It's also just it's almost like a who knows type of situation where if you look at the 20% bet frequency, you'll see the clubs aren't going to be in there all that often for him.
I locked him to having it.
If you go back all of the club draws, you just gave.
I just gave him like quarter.
Right, so they're betting some of the time.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess this is what.
Same with spades. Same with like I didn't give him like what I actually think he's betting with, because I don't want to be that assumptive that he's making like egregious errors. But he probably is. He's probably over c-betting equity.
Betting here a fifth of the time seems a little low for anybody.
Agreed.
Facing a check.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's probably much closer to like half, maybe even 2/3 of the time. But
hard not to bet a king.
Yeah, but like we'll run it as is. So you can see that I don't get to raise all that often, but my hand is in there with a mix. A lot of these hands are in there with a mix. I have it locked because it didn't really have me check raising enough thin value. Like I basically would check raise a lot of king X here, and it was trying to position me more towards polarization. But I think at this depth, again, like the depths we're looking at here is only 125 SPR. We're actually 10x deeper. So things change a bit. So I locked like what I think my check raise range is. I don't think the frequencies are correct, but I think the candidates are.
You check raise more than 3%.
Yeah, of course. But I think the actual candidates chosen are correct. So, we kind of go into fantasy land node. Now you can see his response, pure calling all of his king X. This is what I think is like most relevant.
You can fold to jack on flop versus raise.
Yeah, I think his weakest ones are going to fold unless they have a backdoor. You can see the clubs fully continue. Same with jack 3. But everything else is going to have either backdoor properties or the ability to improve the 2-pair pretty cleanly.
You're going to see the issue here very soon.
Yeah, so same thing with jack 3 off, jack deuce off, stuff like that. And I imagine like some, maybe not. I think it might be because I have like ace deuce of spades that's check raising. So like these hands don't really want to be in there unless they block that. You can see like the 2 of spades is a pure call. Everything else is
you
like
also
a pure
just
fold.
don't make a better 2-pair. Like you want to have like jack 10 outs so you can beat jack 7 if they check raise you.
Yeah, probably. So now the turn comes to 5. And we got one right, team. We did something good. Hey, look at us.
For 2.
Look at us. We did it.
Accept me, Daddy.
You can't give
Accept me.
him the wizard cope check mark.
Yeah.
No, I get the wizard cope check mark.
That's what I'm saying.
I got one node right.
I'm saying we can't give you this much power.
Okay, well, whatever. I got a node right, and I'm happy about it.
All right.
So my hand follows through here less often than clubs. Obviously, we kind of knew that clubs were going to be the big follow through here. Like that's what you want to polarize with. And I think my thinking was just like a little bit off in that because the spades were the 2 biggest cards that his pair pluses would have to call fold at a pretty high frequency.
You also just want to protect the range to check raise the turn as well.
Yeah, that's
6-9 is
true.
probably gonna be a good one.
Yeah.
Check and then face bet, go big. Like king jack, you're checking half the time, and it's not because you're scared.
You're right. I actually think I might have been able to, really get in the fancy land and pull a double check raise here with my.
I found a way
my
to be
sort
an
of
all
hand.
in.
we could have fast tracked that son of a
Could have
bitch.
gone for like a
That son bitch.
like a pull or two.
But yeah, like my line of thinking here was that because the king and the jack are unblocked for clubs, that most facing 3x pot, most king X is just going to be indifferent and start folding a lot, except for the clubs. They're all going to pure call. And then I figured those hands would then become indifferent, unimproved on the river.
Yeah, or if he was
right?
like king offsuit high with a club.
Right. So I was trying to think streets ahead of like, because I know that front door spades aren't going to want to bluff river, but my mind was like, oh, but we can in this particular instance because I'm funneling him to so many hands that have to call, fold in the club region.
You're forcing strategy.
Maybe a little bit. Might be happening a little bit. Look, I'm not going to pretend like we got this one right. I set him in the fucking muck.
And then he gave himself the wizard check mark.
I got one thumbs up. I'm not going to get any more. Trust me. Okay, so
Look at aces, by the way. It's a pure check.
is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
bet
That makes
this
a lot of
hand.
sense, I think. The 5 is pretty nasty. He's going to improve some.
Equity retention's hard when the board changes a lot.
Exactly.
Not in your favor.
We have a hand that can like, check call twice, assuming we don't face like 2E, which at this point I think is like 1,000% pot. So we're probably not going to face it. It's a rogue strat at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do go for the big size. I actually would have not pure checked aces. I think I would have bet ace of spades, ace of clubs, because he doesn't have any of those nut flush draws retained. But yeah, whatever. It seems like it might be a small error. Now when we look at his response, my assumption was pretty correct. He's more than just indifferent, right? King 5 actually becomes indifferent, which is wild, right? He's never folding this hand, obviously.
King 7 more so than king 5.
Yes, actually very, very key to point out. So it really hates having the king of clubs or the 7 of spades. Like you don't want to block, I guess, my doubles that are the pair plus draws, which makes a lot of sense. Same thing with the king 5. You can see that it doesn't really care to have the king of clubs unless it's exactly king of clubs, 5 of spades. I'm not really sure why that exact combo differs from the king 7 scenario, where having like king of clubs, 7 of spades is a pure fold, I think. Oh, wait. What's going on here? Where is king club, 7 of spades? Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's pure fold.
Pure fold.
So I'm not really sure what's interacting between these two candidates that make it so sensitive to that one specific combo. But in any event, the more important takeaway here is that king X is in hell, and the vast majority of it just folds.
Well, I guess that
the
might
suited
be
variety
the
continues a
issue,
lot.
is it being in hell and the machine is just going to fold.
Right.
In practice, they're just going to find a continued potential.
Correct. Right. So the errors that are being made, we're aware that they're occurring, but maybe not aware of how we're going to take advantage of it. And the answer, Landon, is we're going to take advantage of it by the river being favorable to us and then blasting and now earning 300% pot off of king 4 on the turn. However, when the river is a stupid fucking king, that doesn't get to happen anymore.
So what I'm hearing is you ran bad.
Well, I played bad too. When the river's a king, we hate our life. Now you're right. It goes to block.
Oh.
So you were correct.
Look at Landon. Child of the sim.
He is the child of the sim. Now,
Daddy taught him well.
Now, if we look at the response here, let's see if any
How
king
you
X
know he's
raises.
not my dad.
Okay, so I was also right. King X doesn't raise. King 5 barely raises. Right? It just doesn't have nothing
Just
raises.
can't.
He plays zero raise.
He can't raise because in your machine sim custom, he doesn't have king jack.
Of course.
And you do.
Right. That was that's what the whole sim was predicated on.
Sure.
Right? So he gets to play like no raise on the river, which means that the block is now
It's
really
also
effective.
a B40 size, maybe if it's quarter, but it still wouldn't raise.
Yeah, but I mean, whatever. So the fact that he gets to play no raises, you're right. Now this becomes really, really enticing. And even though my candidate doesn't do it, like you can see 9-6 clubs, all the clubs are going to follow through as you suspected. But yeah, even though my candidate doesn't do it, I think that like if we want to force bluffs in, we just do so for the 40%.
What do spades do? They just give up? They just check forward?
I think for the whoops.
Just remind you. One more time for the boys.
Fucking relax, man. I get it, okay? I'm in the mock.
No, but this is good for you because you need the negative
I
reinforcement.
do need the negative reinforcement. I won't do this again, I swear.
He'll do it
At
again.
least not this week.
And the week is over.
Right, so he'll change his mistake from doing something like this to playing like a 6-bet pot with 6-4 suited.
Right.
Ooh.
Yeah, you just, oh no, what have I done?
You got to figure it out somewhere else.
What have I done? All right, anyway, I fucked everything up. I was going to try to isolate for spades and whatnot, but now
It's just going to give up.
yeah, it's just going to give up. Yeah. I don't think you're going to find any spades that don't give up. So, effectively, what we've learned from all of this is that king is bad. That river is no bueno.
Right.
And I do want to take a look at it and see what he does with Jack X. Yeah, so facing block, this was kind of my fear. No, you're right. Only the two pair. No, he calls with Jack 3 of clubs, pure. He calls with Jack 7. Jack 8, for some reason, pure folds. I guess you just have to start finding folds. So yeah, like that was my fear, was that I would get called by Jack X too much, but you're correct in that he doesn't really have it.
Right. Well, I said the big issue was when you looked at your machine back in the node of flop, the Jack X suiteds were very, very low.
Yeah.
So you're targeting a range that is not that important in relation to everything else.
Yeah. If I locked for something that I think is maybe a little bit more reasonable, like him just not bet folding a pair.
You can lock and fold in range too.
I was gonna say he just
Why don't we do something that actually happens in real life?
I don't
He
really
might
know what
just
happens.
have all the
He
jacks.
just doesn't bet fold a pair, man. Like, have you played live poker before?
I'm just like sitting here, like he might just have all the jacks. He's not a machine.
He might just call you with A7.
He's not the machine. man.
Maybe. I mean, like this is the beauty of live, like, is that we do get to freestyle in these spots. But we want to be able to have some sort of theoretical grounding. I wanted to show this in the muck specifically, not because I think it demonstrates like this unique theory spot where we're finding something or anything along those lines. I think this more so demonstrates like what freestyling actually looks like when you have an idea of how theory works, right? I chose a larger flop side because I think that range is so capped and I can apply multiple streets of pressure. I went with the 300% pot on the turn because we started to polarize the flop and the turn is very so it's like there are heuristics that I'm leaning on that are very apparent throughout the course of this solve that are specifically targeting mistakes that I think my opposition's making. And it's a hairline thing, right? Like when you're wrong, it's really expensive. And I end up being wrong on the river in the range that I may be targeting, right?
On a specific river.
Well, on that river, yes. Yeah. On most other rivers, I think that my assumption that weaker draws fold too often on the turn and weaker kings call too often are probably going to allow me to massively overbluff board changing cards. But the king ain't it, right? Like at the end of the day, the king just ain't it, and full pot ain't it. Like that size is just going to be incorrect.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Okay.
Well, because
Thank you for your input, Landon.
Well, I mean, like when it comes to texture changing cards on river, you're probably just gonna have to size down for the same reasons.
Yeah.
Where King X is not very happy facing a B40.
Sizing down to pot is sizing down, right? 300 to pot is a pretty significant scale back, especially whenever we land at river and the SPR is still like, I mean, what did I bet for pot on the river? 10K?
10K, yeah.
Yeah, so river SPR is still like 10,
Yeah.
right?
It just really depends on what river you get, right? Spade versus club is gonna be different for your overall betting volume.
Yeah,
straight complete.
spade is actually trickier than club.
Yeah,
right?
because clubs aren't that existent.
Exactly. Like club, we know that we're gonna rifle it off, whereas a spade, it's like, okay, we made a marginal hand.
Yeah, like your flush
Right.
is kind of eh.
Yeah, we made a 5-card hand, but like, yeah, we're dominated some of the time. The only beauty that we have is that we think he probably doesn't have nut flush draws in range very often, if ever. So like he might just pure call his flushes.
If you like, I guess, play with it and put like a deuce of spades river, I would imagine that we mostly block.
I think so too.
Because like you just would block and then call.
Yeah, and I think it would work very similarly to this situation where clubs would be happy to block.
Yeah.
And then spades, whatever, you just get your value.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was a very interesting spot. I wanted to demonstrate like what it looks like to go for that like big polarizing turn size and then have to navigate rivers differently. If you guys have a similar in the muck situation that you would like us to discuss on air, by all means, reach out to us. Head to our Discord. Check out the Solve for Why Twitter. It's the pinned comment. So at Solve for Why. Sorry, at SolveForWhyTV is the Twitter handle. Or you can just hit hashtag Discord in the chat beside you. Also, if you guys are interested in getting your own GTO Wizard AI unlocked so that you can run these spots yourself, go ahead and hit hashtag Wizard in the chat. You can follow that link and get yourself all signed up. All right, let's get to the meat and potatoes, as if that wasn't it.
I was gonna say, there's something else to talk about.
There's one more thing.
Oh my God, what is it?
We left the best for last.
What's that?
all
Actually,
right.
hearing you cry is pretty damn good.
I was not
honestly.
crying.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Definitely a lot of
I
tears.
wasn't fucking crying.
Cope, cry, same.
Maybe I coped a little.
All right, sorry.
Definitely a lot of cope.
A little bit of tears.
You motherfucker.
Where's your hands at, Conrad?
My brethren in the muck.
I know. You
You know how many times you've begged for the thumb up?
I know.
Oh, I got the turn right. Give me my thumb up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Feels good. Feels good to see that green check mark.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
red X, not so much.
All right. I'm glad to see that you're back on the reasonable side of things. All right. I want to talk about this because I think that this is actually. I know that. Jonathan don't see eye to eye when Jonathan and I don't see eye to eye when it comes to strategy and heuristics and the way that we teach. But I actually think that his Twitter post the other day, yesterday maybe, brings up a really important pain point that is too often missed by people who are new to studies, specifically new to solver work. And this, to me, is one of the lazy shortcuts that often gets promoted in a way that's not beneficial to anybody except for the person who is not taking the advice, basically the person who's making the bet. And that is that this notion that if you look at a solver and you see hands that are on the cusp, so let's say a solver is looking at a hand that's barely making EV at a node, the implication that somehow that's negative EV for a person who's less skillful. And that's the unspoken thing here, right? When he says, it's important to realize that when a solver says something is barely plus EV, it is often negative EV for us. What he is not saying there is that you are a losing player and it's negative EV because you cannot make profitable decisions moving forward.
Well, I think he was saying you can't play perfectly.
But that's
like a solver.
That's not relevant though.
Right. No,
right?
I know it's not. I'm saying I think that like in his mind that's what
fair. Okay, we can give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
That's what he was thinking. But that's not relevant because neither are your opponents.
Right. That was my immediate takeaway from when I read that tweet. I was like, well, we're not playing perfectly, but they sure are not playing perfectly
Correct.
either.
Right. So the implication that something in theory where two strategies are converged upon perfect play, the notion that a hand that is making money in that environment is somehow now losing when two strategies are imperfect is very, very, very hard to actually model and see come to fruition unless you are actively making such large errors later that you can't really play any portions of your strategy perfectly.
Which is a different problem.
Not perfectly, profitably, right? Yeah, totally different problem altogether. So before I get into the example that he stated here, what I really want to highlight, and this is what the discussion turned to in our Discord channel, is that what's really being stated here is not that there are some hands that are hard to play profitably in spite of the fact that they make money in theory. What's being stated here is that you have holes in your strategy that are costing you money with hands that are otherwise profitable. And if you translate that into layman's terms, what it's really saying is you overfold some node, specifically later in the hand. Therefore, the fix to that is to just overfold the early node. And all this tweet is now forcing you to become is an OMC, right? It's basically saying that if you arrive at the river with a significantly tighter range, you'll have easier decisions.
Which is true.
Which is very true. But it also means that you've forgone a whole bunch of win rate prior to the river. And you've naturally forfeited that to your opponent. because that's how EV works.
It's not really win rate, more so you're exceeding the loss rate. Right? You're losing more by overfolding.
Well, that implies that you were losing to begin with, right?
Well, if you call it optimally, you're not giving up. You're not gaining win rate.
Okay, let's stop talking in terms of win rate because it's just about EV, right? What happens is if you overfold early, that EV has been collected by your opposition.
Yeah.
Period. Because that's how EV works.
Cannot be created or destroyed. That is a quote by Matt Berkey.
It can be destroyed by overfolding.
Well, it can't be destroyed, but it can be exchanged.
Right. It just transfers from one player to the other.
Correct.
Back and forth.
So essentially, what's happening is you are
Matt Berkey Lavoisier.
you're willingly paying money in order to not be in an uncomfortable decision later. Right. That's all that's being stated here. Now, this example, I hate to beat a dead horse here, but like this example demonstrates a clear lack of understanding of solvers. And I'm really shocked that like people on the poker coaching side aren't in Jonathan's ear saying like, this is just wrong. Like I would hope that you guys would point shit like this out if I ever publicly stated this stuff, because this is an egregious oversight.
Like
right?
if you said on a tweet like, hey, you should overfold the turn in order to make river decisions easier, I would say like, you're just losing so much on the turn though.
Right. And even that would just at least be generic. But like the example given here is like a gross misunderstanding of the math, right? So he says, let me pull it up. He says, for example, when holding ace 10 on queen 9-4 facing quarter pot c-bet, a solver might say that defending gains us 0.6 big blinds on average.
That's a lot, yeah.
It's a lot. But this is only because the solver will navigate the turn and river perfectly. A human cannot replicate this, and therefore the value of calling goes way down.
Try.
Understand this and prosper. Okay, so let's explain this so you can understand it. If we do assume that we play very imperfectly on future streets, and our opponents play better than us, so we play imperfectly, they play imperfectly, but they are more skillful than us, then yes, ace 10 will lose EV. What
does that mean? Like better than?
I don't know, but it doesn't really matter.
It probably doesn't lose so much that it turns negative.
Exactly. If it's winning 0.6 big blinds, which is a lot, that needs to be specified. Right. It is a lot.
Doesn't sound like a lot.
If you're in a single raise pot, and there are 6 big blinds in the middle.
If you're playing 2-5 and they go 2.5, there is 5.5
big blinds. So 6 for ease. If there are 6 big blinds in the middle, right? And your opponent bets, what did you say? Quarter pot?
1.5 big blinds.
So so there's 7.5 big blinds in the middle, and you're making 0.6 big blinds. That means you're making somewhere in the neighborhood of 8% pot share, 7% pot share, something like that.
A lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot of pot share to sacrifice.
Small pot, big price.
Right. So if this is the case where you're basically giving your opponent 7% pot share immediately just by like overfolding this hand, not only does it become a problem now with this hand, but it becomes a problem with all these classes of hands.
It's not just the ace 10.
Exactly. It's not just the ace 10. And what I don't think is like being conveyed here is like queen 9-4 rainbow. How much pot share do we think a 4 has?
A lot.
Good amount.
It's going to be a good amount, but it might be like somewhere between 0.6 and 0.9 big blinds.
Right. Okay. So it's not that much more than the ace 10.
It's roughly the same. If you start going around folding pairs on queen 9-4 rainbow because you don't feel comfortable navigating bottom pair, you're not winning. And nothing that anybody subscribes to you will make you winning until you start to understand how to win in this game.
Yeah, fold like 3-4 with a backdoor facing quarter pot because they might have a queen.
Right. Right. Like them having the best hand at showdown is not the goal, right? It's nice. It's a nice caveat, but we want to make decisions earlier in the hand that are just naturally winning us money. When the turn's a 10 and our opponent had bet a 9, we want to be able to just have ace 10, have it go check, and then be able to block bet the river and win, right? Like that's really fucking important. You derive a lot of win rate there.
Or sometimes an ace comes and they overbet and you call and then check, you win.
Right. And like, it doesn't even need to be that complicated. That's how you would maximize your 0.6 big blinds, right?
By just floating.
Right. But say like you make errors and you just call and then the turn's a 10 and it goes check, check, and the river's a deuce and you check and he checks down. You still made close to your 0.6 big blinds. You missed the river bet, right? And that was factored in, but it doesn't matter. You still might be making like 0.45 big blinds on the flop call. And you didn't do anything.
It's more of
You just called and then surrendered and like let the whole hand play itself out.
Well, at this point in the where we're at with poker, he would never make a tweet that says you should start folding bottom pair versus quarter pot.
Right.
Because people know like you can't do that.
Correct.
You simply can't. But with
Correct.
ace 10, it's kind of the same
Still it's
idea
convoluted.
as the 4, but the difference is how comfortable are you calling with 2 overs to second pair versus calling with the 4.
Correct.
Maybe
And,
this is just a ploy to make sure people keep overfolding.
I mean, God bless if that's the case.
I'm
just sick psyop.
I'm here for it. But
Yes.
the big point. So there is a takeaway from this that I actually do largely agree with, especially live. You will play against players that think the way this tweet tweets, right? They will think about ace 10 the way that this tweet reads, and they will overfold it early. What we need to understand is that we've already collected that win rate when we c-bet the flop. And now range betting wins so much more than it's supposed to in theory.
For sure.
However, we will exchange some of that EV back on rivers if we don't correct course, right?
This is true.
So people who do overfold earlier nodes are less likely to overfold later nodes. And therefore, we have to mitigate our bluffing range as well as our value range. We can't go quite as thin and we can't bluff quite as often.
This kind of happens naturally in live.
Correct.
People get like
Everybody converges on
like
the nuts.
the nit checks
range is
and,
narrow. Right.
Like sometimes you feel like you value bet a hand in theory that's supposed to value bet, and you always value on yourself, and it's because of the overfold on earlier streets.
Yes.
And that is the hashtag they always have it, right?
Yeah.
And not folding the ace 10 is the hashtag pay, just pay, right? These are the two strategic thoughts that are at odds, and EV is what settles the score.
It's the unstoppable force versus the movable object.
That's
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
And EV is what we lean on to settle the score and basically to tell us like exactly how this works. Fact is, you could be making more money than theory would with ace 10, depending on how imperfectly your opposition plays, right? And yes, you could be making less, but it's very hard for it to become negative, right?
Right.
The other concept that I think could be pulled out of this is like in live, if you recognize that people aren't like if you recognize the way that people are imperfect is that they're too tight, then our 0 EV hands are hands that mix call fold, raise fold, whatever. Those hands will probably shift to negative EV. That's the spectrum that he should have focused on. If he wants to say, when facing somebody who range bet, when facing a quarter pot bet that is not well crafted and too tight, it's okay to fold your 0 EV bluff catchers. That's reasonable because they easily could shift to negative, right? And it has nothing to do with how you play your future strategy. It has everything to do with the fact that their range has morphed. And now what was once a theoretical 0 EV hand has changed because the variable has changed, right? Just like if they're range betting a spot where you're not allowed to range bet according to theory, then your 0 EV hands start making money.
Man, this kind of goes back and reminds me of like the ace 6-6 board at the academy where it's like not a range bet, but if you put out a big bet or a small bet and someone starts folding hands like 7-8 on ace 6-6 because you're going to play other streets poorly, you're just printing with the range bet.
Correct.
But
And
you're
that's
going to be
why-
losing on multiple streets for big bet because they're
Well, you won't be
range is
losing.
gutted.
You just have to. You're only losing if you don't alter your strategy.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Your bluffs will be losing if you still play a theoretical strat.
If you play an unadjusted strat.
Yeah.
I think that's really important to key in on. The language matters a lot here because you very well can range bet and then just appropriate your check back range on turn to accommodate the fact that they are not calling too tightly.
I do think that's nice that ace 10 facing quarter pot cannot go from this very winning play to a not even break even. Like, sure, you're winning less, but it doesn't mean you're losing.
I would go so far to say that I don't even know if we can lose with ace 10 versus a bot. Like, even if we, like, our imperfections, I don't think can be exploited to the point where a hand that's making 0.6 big blinds versus a c-bet can now suddenly be losing by river. It would be really hard to make those errors, right?
Right, because you would just find a turn fold on a brick. You'd find
It's
a call
not.
with
I
a
don't
pair.
even think. I'm positive that it can't shift to negative if we're finding later folds. I'm pretty sure the only way that it could turn to negative EV is if we massively overinvest with like ace high.
Right, you
for
just
too
call,
many
you call
streams.
that. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like turn is a deuce, and they overbet, and you call. Like, that's an error.
Right.
Now we're losing by default, and now you're just losing like more.
Right. So that error would have to be greater than 0.6 big blinds. And if it's not, then we would have to find a way to commit money again on the river,
Just tough to lose. This is why you call, because of pot odds. Your price is just so good.
which is a big underlying factor that most people just don't understand, right?
Yeah, well, it's just more of the binary. I don't win yet. I want to fold now. I could lose more.
Exactly.
Instead of I'm not losing very much to call, but I can win more if I make a hand or they check.
Right. And that's the nuts and bolts of like, this is very important to me for the specific reason that it's so misleading, right? Like, this isn't just like
The overfold now narrative.
Yeah. Like, look, the stuff that I've nitpicked in the past where it's just like, okay, telling people to work harder is like really tone deaf, and you know, it's kind of bullshitty. Like, it's not just a matter of wanting it. Like, you got to actually have it. You got to know that ace 10's not a fucking fold on the flop, man. You know, like, you can't just show up for 3,000 hours a year and print money if you don't know that hand that's making half a fucking big blind continues. Okay.
Always.
So it's like I had issues with that kind of messaging, but it's like I had issues with it because it falls into the hustle culture and the grind set and like the guru bullshit, right? So that's just me. That's not my taste. But like, whatever. Everybody can do their own, and I'll just have an opinion on it. This isn't an opinion. This is blatant disregard for how money is fucking made in poker, and it's being presented as a new hack to make more money.
Yeah. Hey, you can win by folding when you actually have a winning hand.
Right, like, oh, you want to know how to neutralize good players? Fucking fold more winners, baby. I'm sorry, what? Like, what? Tight is right only gets you so far. Like, you will absolutely destroy any available win rate imaginable
Yeah.
if you are just calling pre-flop and then folding flop with good hands.
Especially versus someone that is mildly aware of the showdowns that they see over a certain amount of time, where it's you get value cut enough times, you realize that someone doesn't have enough bottom.
Right. And the thing is like the game is only evolving in a way where people become more and more aware of like the biggest no-nos. You know, for a decade plus, I printed off the fact that no one would continue with bottom pair after flicking it in with 5-4 suited pre. You know, it just comes queen 9-4 and they're just like, oh, fuck me, I didn't hit my straight, I fold.
This
right?
is regressing strategy.
Yeah, but like that doesn't happen now, you know, and if it does, like, don't ever leave that game.
Right,
Like,
because now they check raise it.
Berkey. It does happen. Sure, Brian, I get it, but like that's why you don't ever want to pay them on the river.
Makes sense.
Sure. The point being is that like it happening now in some sort of frequency isn't an indication that like the correct adjustment is to find ways for us to take hands that are clearly making money and dump them. It's just to lean on the fact that these guys stink.
I think this is why live poker mildly annoys me.
This is why I love live poker.
Right.
You're like,
He's a purist.
Not about
you because people play bad live.
Not about
Man, that sucks.
Not about playing bad. It's more so when you go for like theoretically sound river value and just never have the best hand when you do it, and you're lighting money into the abyss because you need to check back as the range that does get there on river is so much tighter.
Right.
It's like, why can't I just bet 75 and then fold if I get raised and just get called by a hand that's just better than me every time?
That's just as lazy as fucking saying fold the ace 10 because you don't want to make a tougher decision later.
Well, now you have to. Well, if they're too tight, you have to start. I have to start checking back.
Yeah.
I don't want to check back.
Okay.
But you got to.
Then just check back flop more.
Got to play online.
Keep them wider. Like, what you're that take, I appreciate. I do, because it's being very honest, right? But it's also a very it's
Mildly
very,
facetious, but go on.
I get that you're memeing a bit, but it's also coming from the exact same place of wanting to simplify the game into something that's so easily distilled that you can just like mindlessly execute, right? Like I know this strat. It's B25, follow with 75, follow with overbet with certain portions of my range, check down with others.
That sounds nice.
Right, yeah. Right? You just become a machine. You just execute, right? And that's great. But like that ain't it, man. That's not where all the money is made.
You just gotta bet check.
It's if you can do that, so can someone else. It's not that hard to get that studied up to know what the fucking betting lines are. But if instead you can go into an environment and say, this motherfucker doesn't call ace 10 on queen 9-4, I just printed through a range bet. Now what I have to recognize is he's much more concentrated to the middling card, the 9, the draws, and the queen, right? So I know that this concentration exists. Now, instead of me executing my normal line, instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a slightly tighter polarized range on bricks when I go for the overbet. So now instead of me having like, you know, anything that picks up backdoor equity, anything that blocks bottom set, whatever, and I just run it, now I have to be a little bit more particular, but only of the bluffing side, right?
There's a lot less confidence in your strategy than there is mine.
Exactly. But I think that that's largely coming from a place of, I don't want to go so far as to say arrogance or hubris on your side, but it's
well,
it's
confidence
faith.
of the
Let's call it
baseline.
faith. Yes, yeah. But right, but you have faith.
My God is real.
Well, you're operating off the faith of the vacuum, right? Whereas like
Sure.
I'm basically saying that I recognize the vacuum doesn't exist.
Well, you also do realize that it exists because ace 10 off wins pot share.
Yes. Sorry. What I'm saying is that it doesn't. It's not a one-to-one transfer here when I'm in game, right?
No, my hand is not worth exactly what it's worth in machine.
Correct. So that's what I'm saying is when I play live, I can draw back or I can draw conclusions from what I've seen in vacuum scenarios that I've studied. But I also understand every single spot that I'm in live is a one-off.
Yeah, it's like this hand wins something, but how much does it win? I don't know.
Right. All I need to know is that ace 10 is making money through a check call line.
Or some amount, right? Because then at some point you get to a point when you play like bigger pots and you're like, well, bluff catching here is worth very small percent of pot share.
Right.
Is it winning more? Is it winning less based off of this guy?
Yeah. The more we regress to zero, the more that we can now start to potentially overfold. But understand that when we're talking about folding zero EV hands, the frequency at which we're overfolding here is so minuscule that it's hard to auto profit as our opposition, because we're also going to make errors in the mixes that
Pure fold, you might mix a call.
Exactly, right? So like the king 4 for Oaken, that's just a pure fold. So is king 10, so is king 9. But like I know for a fact he might be mixing those hands, but he's never pure folding them, right? So he's just finding too many calls in certain nodes, but he also might be overfolding like natural draws that are supposed to call, so his frequency is still intact.
And you can make the argument that he probably should call depending on how much you're going to bet the turn.
Yeah.
Like if you're, because in theory, the machine range was 3% flop check raise, but you're raising more than that. And then turnover bets like 15% of range. You might be a little bit more than that.
A little bit off, yeah.
So it's like
yeah,
now
these are where the imperfections come from, right? This is where the EVs actually exchange. Point is, you have to fucking play the game.
you have to play the game and you have to kind of gamble on like what you expect your opponent to do to some regard.
Right.
Because he might think that his play is winning, as he can never fold this hand to you because you bluff too much, which may or may not be true.
Right.
And you might think his play is really bad because you're not bluffing enough, but you might be.
And we continue on.
And yeah.
Right? We move forward.
And then you get the King of Hearts River and lose a big pot.
Right. Point is...
Next time it'll come the 8 of Hearts Berkey.
Right. Point is...
And he'll have
certain
10-9.
hands have EV.
Just wrecked.
The point is, some hands are just inherently making EV no matter how imbalanced either player is. And it's just... It's a sin to find folds with them.
Yeah, this is kind of the whole nuts versus second nuts arguments.
Exactly.
Where it's like, can I really fold this hand? Like,
what I say every single time people find themselves in that scenario, and I talk about it a lot with Brian, is something went wrong somewhere else. Mm-hmm. It's not about this decision. Mm-hmm. This decision is made for you.
It's almost
you
like
have the second nuts.
You've funneled too far
something
get to
something
this point where
right?
you're scared to call.
Right, or your range is too capped, or like they are, have too much night advantage. Similar to this like custom sim that I just ran with Oaken. Like when he's totally devoid of full houses on the end, he can no longer raise his strongest trips. Right? That means that something went wrong somewhere prior. Right? And something happened where an imbalance was so egregious that now we land in this new node where the second nuts feel really fucking bad. King 7 doesn't raise river.
Right.
That's the second nuts.
Yeah.
Right? It feels really bad because there's a high concentration of nuts to the other range. And that happens organically live because of stupid fucking advice like fold winning hands on the flop.
I thought you're going to go easy today, buddy.
I planned on it. I truly did. I just can't help it, man.
It's charged up.
It's so bad. It's like it's great advice if you want to keep the game soft, but if you are going to actually try to help people get better, this is not it.
So you gave a really good example about how if this situation is on the cusp of 0 EV, then maybe that's a spot where you can fold. Why didn't he just go that route?
Right.
Right. You came up with that very quickly and easily, and it's just like.
Well, to be fair, it is something that we actually talk about a lot, and it's something that we even speak on in the academy. By the way, if you haven't already, give that thumbs up.
Yeah.
Subscribe, click the bell.
Mickey's proud of you.
Make sure you get those alerts in there.
Got to.
Yeah, you got to do
How else are you going to see Berkey rant?
That's right.
True.
Grind my gears. No, but it's a concept that we've always obviously talked about a lot. And maybe I should put out some of these threads in order to combat against the trash that is floating around there. But like the bigger issue that I have here is not that somebody made some level of advice that's like bad. It's that it's a qualified voice that clearly didn't double check his work and just like threw it out into the ether as though like it's just fine.
Yeah.
And now nobody's actually like somebody has to. I mean, Pad saw it. Pads gets
Patrick,
it.
Patrick didn't let that fly.
He's not going to let it fly. He said, is this a low-key dig at poker sites that everyone we play against is using RTA? Basically saying like, okay, if everybody is like has perfect sims, then maybe I could see a world where like we don't want to call cusp hands or whatever.
Right.
He said, or why will we assume that opponents play their ranges perfectly and we won't?
Exactly.
Sure, we won't hit GTO perfectly on the turn or on the river, but why should our opponents? If they're way better than just unregged pre, it's a better idea in my opinion. And that's reiterating what I'm saying. It's basically saying like when he says unregged pre, it's just saying like, okay, well you're not good enough to be in this game anyway. You're auto losing by taking these strategies. In almost every spot, I'd argue that the PPP site that we should, I'm not sure what that means. Maybe Landon knows.
Where is it?
I'd argue the PPP site.
I argue the opposite site.
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
I argue the opposite
side.
I argue the opposite that we should defend wider versus C-bets.
Correct. Okay.
There it is.
Slash aggression since
PPP
almost...
site.
Maybe it's just the seat, Maybe it's not me. Maybe I can read.
Nah, we tried this too much.
Come on, bro. He hit me with PPP. I couldn't put it together. The PP. Since almost every population data suggests a lack of turn river aggression, thus every combo over-realizing equity rather than under-realizing. Not trying to be smart, just not sure what I'm missing here. And, he's being very, very nice. And I appreciate that so much about Patrick. I don't have it in me, man. I don't have the patience.
You don't have it in you for more than 5 minutes.
I tried. I really did. But
did.
this is very bothersome to me because this is 101 shit. This is just literally understanding EV. And I get it. EV is actually more challenging to understand than we as the community tend to acknowledge. People think they know what it means. They conflate it with just equity all the time. They believe it to be this simple thing that we can calculate, or it's a buzzword that just gets thrown around. Expected value is a very, very complex system of variables that are utilized to calculate how much money we're making at any one decision point, right? That's a very challenging thing to teach people. But guess what? When you're an instructor, you pick that equation apart. You take all those variables and you break them down individually. And you say, I'm going to teach you each one of these things individually as a heuristic, so that you can understand at a broader level how EV is derived. So we look at things like showdown value. We look at things like raw equity. We look at things like equity advantage, nut advantage, range advantage, etc. We look at board textures. We look at positional advantage. We break all of these things down because they're all a part of this EV calculation. And then we finally arrive at a conclusion that's much more binary than it actually is at the mathematical level. Is this hand winning or not? And if you're better than that juncture, you can actually start to say, is this hand a part of a more complete strategy that's winning at this node, right? And when you start to check some of these boxes and you just say yes, you stop misplaying fucking hands, right? And then you start to actually understand how to study a little bit better. Now you can utilize these tools to kind of dig in and say like, okay, here's what I was thinking. Here are the things that I was considering in the moment. Well, I have ace 10 high. Does it have showdown value? Yes. Does that make it higher up in our equity distribution naturally? Yes. Can it improve to better hands than my opponent is c-betting? Yes. Am I at a positional disadvantage? Yes. Okay, that's one score against. What other ace X or 10X hands do I have in my range that are more natural continues? Maybe you don't find that many, right? Like we have ace 9, we have ace 4, sure. But like we don't have ace king defending to a single open. We might have some ace jack. But like, what's really the difference between ace jack and ace 10 in this instance, right? So we just start to break it down in this way. And then finally, we just arrive at like, how much worse is my opponent betting here compared to this hand? It's like, oh, well, he's probably betting like 8 high and 7 high and 6 high and yada, yada, yada. And how does my hand play against those hands after I check and call?
His hypothetical was the button opens.
I'm not sure he was specific.
Yeah, I don't even think he gave position.
Specificity would be nice.
Yeah, he wasn't specific.
Well, it's like if he opens the button and just has like infinite deck, you have a hand that cannot. It might be worth more.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm taking the 0.6 with a grain of salt as something that he's manufacturing. Maybe this is just a
like
random made up number.
Source, I made it up.
Right. Like maybe ace 10's never 0.6 big blinds of EV here, but like that doesn't matter because it's not about ace 10.
No,
it's not about the rice.
It's not about the rice.
Not about the rice.
Okay, it's not about the rice. It's about
it's not about the pasta.
It's about the EV.
No pasta.
At the end of the day, it's all about the expected value of a hand, and those words mean something. When you expect that value, it's predicated off the fact that this hand is a part of a larger strategy that is going to derive us money.
Yeah, some people are really good at this. Somewhat from practice, somewhat from raw talent or ability. Some people do it without necessarily looking at much solves, but they're good at putting themselves in nodes where they feel like they're winning the most money. Where instead of finding a barrel, they think someone might overbluff and check and then win that way versus getting the value if they think a turnover fold exists, you know. And some people are going to be more right or wrong than others, but it's definitely a skill that needs to be practiced.
Yeah.
By myself including.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, like theory says you should do this, so I just click it out there. But does he actually defend correctly? I don't know.
Right. Yeah. And I think that can be done both in game through observation as well as like just testing a lot. Like that's what these tools are best used for.
I mean, so Jesse Lonis is fucking sick at this stuff, man. Like I saw him bet a hand. It's like, oh, this is probably too thin to bet. Gets raised. He just didn't believe the guy and called and just won infinite more money than I would have won. And be like, all right, I guess this guy just knows something I don't. All right.
There's a pulse to this game.
He's got $400,000. Nice to hear fucking complaining about it.
Bro's rifling it off on fucking NFL bets.
Yeah, what a legend.
Winning.
Yeah, that's why he rifles it off. He's got to lose somewhere to win somewhere else.
That's true. No, I think
he's winning.
Wait, he had but he had Rams, right?
Yeah,
that was the first of many, my friend.
Gotta ask him what's up with that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, whatever. He's
cooking.
He's cooking.
Yeah.
Man is
I got sat
cooking.
next to Sepio. I got sat next to Sepio on the plane back from Florida to Vegas. And I was like, oh, like let me look at some, we had Wi-Fi. I was like, oh, let me look at some HRC stuff. So he just took a picture of my computer and said, oh, look, I'm studying.
That's hilarious.
Nice.
Yeah. Yo, I have a little CSA. Let's give a little shout out to Cody Daniels.
Okay.
He got 6th in the 5K PGT.
Sick. Okay. Congratulations to Cody. I know it was one of his big aspirations to make that TV final table. So that's really huge.
Yep.
Unfortunate to run short.
He got fucked.
Yeah.
He got fucked. He got ace queen in against fucking ace jack. I only fucked him. River to jack.
God damn it. There's no justice in this world. Anyway, that's going to do it for us today. Please enjoy your weekend. I'm going to need a long rest after this one. Thank you guys as always for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We'll be back next week. Please, Guapo. Please come
need
back.
you.
Listen,
I'm
man,
begging
you
you.
might have to pay him like a bonus to come back. Like it might take him money. Like he might just be living life over there.
Yeah, Guapo's salary EV definitely went up after this break.
Guapo.
He might just he's fine. You know, he'll just move to Thailand, no problem.
That's
or
fine.
wherever
He
the
can,
fuck
he,
he
can,
is.
he can remote desktop in. It's fine.
Right.
Honestly, that's what we should have had him doing this whole fucking time. Was
Oh,
just
we
remote
could've,
desktop in
yeah.
and just like move the mouse. You
Mhm.
control the shit. Leave me out of it. I promise you a better show on Monday. I swear our resident producer, switcher, whatever you want to call it, will be in tow. So we'll see you guys all then. Thank you as always. Noon Monday Pacific. See you.
Later,
Peace.
squad.